Cristóbal Rojas painted this desolate scene called the Misery, also known as La Miseria in Spanish, in 1886. It is an intimate and dark scene, showing a young husband sitting next to his wife who has just died from tuberculosis. It is a desolate and sad scene. Seated in an impoverished setting is the husband just after his wife has passed away. The presence and danger of tuberculosis were part of the harsh reality for many families in the 19th century. Also known as consumption because it seemed to literally consume the victims from the inside out, people who suffered from this disease would rapidly lose weight and begin coughing up blood. It was a terrible disease, and the grim consequences of it are captured here by Rojas. And before continuing, if you have any knowledge or observations about this painting that are not shared in this video, or have any other comments, feel free to leave them below. The painting can be understood in a broader context, and to understand this, it is helpful to learn a little bit about the background of Cristóbal Rojas. He was born in 1858 in Venezuela, to parents that worked in the medical profession. As a young boy, he and his family experienced the brutal impact of the Federal War of Venezuela, a period of 5 years during which hundreds of thousands of people died out of a population of just over 1 million people. While the war ended when Rojas was 5 years old, it would not be the end of his hardship. His father died when Cristóbal was 13 years old, and when he was 21 years old, the region where he lived with his family was hit by a devastating earthquake. He went on to study arts and would later move to Paris, where he painted this self-portrait at age 29. So Rojas had very much seen the darker sides of life during his youth, and we can see this reality coming back in several of his paintings. The Misery is one of several of his paintings that deal with the central role of Venezuelan or Latin American families in providing comfort and a place to practice their religion. And the scene was inspired by a personal experience of Rojas, having witnessed a young neighbor losing his wife to tuberculosis, most likely because they could not afford the necessary medications. During the same year as he created the Misery, Rojas painted The Sick Violinist, in which we see a very sick boy in his bed, surrounded by his parents and two brothers. He probably also suffers from tuberculosis. His energy is gone, and we can see the dashed hopes of a boy who would hope that one day he could perform with his violin in front of a large audience. And just like as we see in The Misery, the boy's room is very plain and simple, and we can see the poor conditions that these families lived in. In 1888, Rojas painted The First and Last Communion, showing a seated 6-year-old girl surrounded by her family and the priest. And the title, The First and Last Communion, basically tells the story here. The girl is so sick that there's not much else her family can do for her. These three paintings are illustrative of the tragic life of many people in Venezuela during that time, and Rojas has eternalized some of their circumstances and feelings on these canvases. And while these three paintings are among the best known ones by Rojas, because of their powerful impact on viewers, he also painted other types of works, like portraits, including this one from the President of Venezuela. And he painted scenes from everyday life, like this woman reading a book, a joyful scene in a tavern, and a baptism. And occasionally he ventured in completely different directions, like this scene of the 13th century writer Dante and his lover Beatrice. But, as said, the more dramatic scenes from life are the ones that Rojas is best remembered for. Let's return to The Misery again, where we are faced with the tragedy of a husband losing his wife to a terrible disease. We can see their poverty, looking at the bare interior, the ripped sheets on the bed, and partly covering the woman's body. Rojas has chosen for a little bit of light entering the room through a small window, providing just enough light to see the raised eyebrow of the man, and for us to see the mix of disbelief, shock and numbness in his face and body. But he has made a promise when they got married to support his wife in good and bad times, and he has stayed close to his wife till the bitter end. Now that she has passed, the devastation is about to settle in. 4 years after this painting, Cristóbal Rojas would die from tuberculosis himself. He was probably still unaware of his fate at the time he painted this, as it can take up to 2 or 3 years for people from the onset of the disease until death. But he was at least aware of the devastating impact of this disease in his environment, and he was able to capture that feeling on this canvas. I hope you learned something from this discussion, and I want to thank you for watching. Please leave a like below to help other people find this video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of my art videos.